highly contagious Delta variant of coronavirus is spreading like a wildfire throughout the world. To guide us through all that is Dr. Mark White. Dr. Mark White, welcome to Delmar TV.
Hello, good evening, and welcome back for another update on this variant
Absolutely.
coronavirus.
As we all seen that Delta virus is highly contagious, actually more than twice contagious as the previous COVID-19. What can we learn from this variant, Dr. Mark?
Well, first of all, I think it's really important that to get the word out, and we talked about the last time that it's really very important that people get vaccinated. Right now, as it stands, 49 to 50% of the United States is fully vaccinated. So 50% of the people are fully vaccinated. And I think it's like 57% of the people have had one dose of the vaccine. Here's the problem that here's the problem that we're dealing with. If people don't get fully vaccinated, um, then as I see it, there's a few things that are really important. There's more than a few, but three of the things I look at is one, you could contract the Delta variant and die, or get real sick and then have long haulers. Two, you could contract Delta variant, pass it on to your children, and we know that children are being hospitalized and getting sick from this Delta variant, um, more so than than the Alpha variant, the first version of the virus. And then the third thing, most important, I think, is if we're not if we're not vaccinated, then we're just leaving the door open for the virus to go in and change to a more deadly, virulent virus. Excuse me. And then we could easily be back. We could easily be sitting in a place where the virus has changed or mutated into a variant that none of the vaccines, none of the antibodies, none of the treatments that we currently have would be effective. And so, one of the things I thought would be important, I think that's important, is that let's talk about these side effects that people, because the only reason why a person wouldn't take the vaccine would because would be because they've heard so much negative or so many bad things that could occur from taking the vaccine. And so I want to talk about those things, and I want to share with the community, um, what does that mean? What do these things mean? So one of the things that we all heard about initially was some people having anaphylactic uh, shock, anaphylactic reactions to the virus. I mean, to the vaccine. And that was why when the people that have been vaccinated, once you got the vaccine, they had you stay there for 15 to 20 minutes. They observed you to make sure that you didn't have an, an anaphylactic, that you did not go into anaphylactic shock. And so, um, in that case, you would have rash, difficulty breathing, heart heart racing. You could literally pass out or die. People have died from an anaphylactic reaction before. The good news is, as much as we heard in the media and as much as we heard on Facebook, um, there was nobody that died from anaphylactic shock. And so that puts one of the myths away. That puts a cap on one of the myths. They've done the CDC, NIH went back and did a study. They did a retroactive study and looked at people that had gotten the vaccine, how many people had an anaphylactic reaction. What happened? Did anybody die? And nobody did. There were people that did have anaphylactic reactions to the virus, to the vaccine, to the vaccine, but none of these people died. There was always when you get the vaccine, if you go to get the vaccine, there's plenty of medical people on standby, emergency 911, fire departments, just doctors, nurses there, because this wouldn't be the first time that a person had an anaphylactic reaction to something. But with this vaccine, there's been so much hype and myth and talk and negative talk about it that people are afraid. They heard people were passing out and dying in the middle of getting the vaccine. Um, just to give you some numbers, um, there have been, and these are probably about a month or two behind. Um, there's been 4.7 million doses of Pfizer given. 4.7 million doses. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's been 9.9 million, 9.9 million doses of Pfizer given to people, and there were only 66 cases of this anaphylactic reaction. So we're talking 9.9 million and only 66 cases of this reaction.
Very minimum.
And so that's like 4.7 per million. 4.7
Wow.
per million. And with Moderna, there was 7.5 million doses of the vaccine given, 7.5 million, and only 19 cases of this anaphylactic shock reaction. So that's about 2.5 people per million. And so those are real numbers. Those are there's a site that you can go to on the CDC, and it's called the Adverse, and it talks about the adverse reactions.
Right.
And so those are the real. That's one of the things that can happen is an anaphylactic reaction, anaphylactic problem.
Let me come back to this Delta variant thing real quick.
Mhm.
Does the data support? There's a report out there saying that Delta variant may cause more severe illness than the previous COVID.
Oh yeah, definitely. We're talking about a virus that has two mutations. One of the mutations is on the where it makes contact with the other cell, and the other mutation is where it causes multiple replication. It replicates faster, quicker, faster, and so the viral load in a person compared to the original alpha variant is like uh, 3, 4, 5, 6 times more than the original. So you got more. If I'm carrying the Delta variant, it's replicated so much inside of me that the viral load that I carry is if I'm standing around uh, uh, 5 people, 3 of the people in a small room, 3 of the people are going to I'm going to transmit that virus to. And if those people are unvaccinated, they're going to be at risk for getting a problem. They're going to be at risk for getting an infection and getting sick and being in the hospital and possibly dying because of the symptoms and the problems that this Delta variant causes. And so, getting back to that one adverse problem that could happen if you get the vaccine, the vaccine has been shown to help that anaphylactic shock. The second thing that I want, did you have a question? I didn't.
No, no, go. I'm observing all the information you're spitting out
Okay.
to.
So just to cap that anaphylactic shock off, there's been 187 million um, people that have received at least one dosage of this of the vaccine, and no one has died from anaphylactic shock.
Wow.
Yeah, so 187 people have received the vaccine,
There was a report earlier this week stating that unvaccinated people appear to be more infected for shorter period than the vaccinated people when it comes to the variant. Does that depending on the immune system of the individual?
Now say that again. Say the
And unvaccinated individuals are appear to be less affected in a shorter period. So, in other words, vaccinated people are actually suffering more than those who have been unvaccinated by the Delta
no,
variant.
that's not true, huh? No, in fact, one of the things that so there are people that are fully vaccinated that have been fully vaccinated that have contracted the virus. Okay, so and those are called breakthrough cases. So there's been some breakthrough cases where a person has been fully vaccinated, but they have but they get infected with the virus, and so and those people. The good news about that is that their symptoms are are mild. Their symptoms are very mild. Uh, these people that have breakthrough infections don't end up in the ICU on the ventilator or dying. They may have a mild to moderate um, symptoms, but they're not in the hospital. They're not dying. So, um, being fully vaccinated is going to help significantly. It's going to be a significant help, even to those people that do get infected with Delta, even if they were fully vaccinated. So, that's a being vaccinated does have some significant advantages. Another, uh-huh.
Speaking of disadvantages, with all these vaccines, obviously there's a real fears out there, and those fears are all come down to the side effect of these vaccines. Can you talk about the side effect of the vaccines? And so far, what have been
Yeah.
seen?
So far we've got the anaphylactic shock.
Mhm.
Another thing that you see with the vaccine side effect is it's called um, uh, ITT,
Mhm.
or thrombosis, ITT, thrombosis, um, and thrombocytopenia. Thrombosis and thrombocytopenia. This is a situation where there's certain individuals that have, and this is where you've heard people have this clotting problem, and there certain individuals have been um, with now this. I want to make sure that we're clear about this. So, uh, Moderna and Pfizer are messenger RNA vaccines. Moderna and Pfizer are messenger RNA vaccines. Johnson and Johnson is a adenovirus vaccine. So Johnson and Johnson is more of the standard vaccine, and the I don't want you to get I don't want people to get hung up on the name, but the name of that is adenovirus vaccine. So that's the technology. They use an adenovirus to make their vaccine. So those people that have had Johnson and Johnson are the people that have gotten this what we call uh, uh, this ITP, or this situation where you have the thrombosis and the platelets, thrombocytopenia. So don't want to make it complicated. Basically, what happens is you have clotting and bleeding. These people are set up for clotting and bleeding. And this is thought to be like an autoimmune problem with some people, and it tends to occur in females. It tends to occur in females who have gotten the Johnson and Johnson. There's there's been rare cases of this with Moderna and Pfizer. So we're talking about females. It occurs more in females, and it occurs with the Johnson and Johnson vaccine. And these people tend to have they have an antibody um, that's called, and I don't want to get into a long name, but it's called platelet factor 4 antibody. And this platelet factor 4 antibody causes this clotting and bleeding to occur in patients who have had the Johnson and Johnson vaccine. And so we're talking about um, women. So if you're a female, okay, so if you're a female and you have the choice of getting Johnson versus Moderna, you you would want to go with Moderna or Pfizer. You don't want to go with the Johnson and Johnson if you're a female, say less than 50 years of age. We'll say 50. Really, it's kind of 30 and 40, but just to keep it, if you're less than 50 and you're a female, you want to try to go with the Moderna or Pfizer as opposed to the Johnson and Johnson, because they have found that they found the results. Um, these people that had the bleeding and the clotting, um, and it wasn't a lot of people. It was not a lot of people. If you break it down to the numbers of people, then we're looking at there were uh, as of June the 30th, there were 12.6 million dosages of Johnson and Johnson given. 12.6 million doses of Johnson & Johnson given. There were only 38 cases of this clotting and bleeding um, problem that we've talked about. So we're talking about 3 cases per million. 3 cases per million. So all of the hype and talk that you've heard about the bleeding and the clotting and I'm gonna clot and bleed, 3 cases per million as of June the 30th. A total of 38 cases. Four people died. Four people died, but this is out of 12.6 million people. So so this occurred in women, and it occurred with the Johnson and Johnson. And so I want to put that out there. So for women that are less than 40, 50 years of age, you you probably would want to go somewhere and get the Moderna or the Pfizer, because you won't get the clotting and this bleeding problems that they have with Johnson and Johnson. It's a different technology, a different platform. This adenovirus, the way they make it, it's not to say that the Johnson and Johnson is a bad vaccine. It works. People have done well with it. But if you're a female, there were 38 cases of it in the 12 to 13 million people that were given this vaccine. And so, people get people people get really. I mean, something is said, and by the end of the week, it, if you take the vaccine, you're going to get a clot. But they don't really understand the science, and that's why I'm glad that we have this opportunity to talk about specifically the science and how many people really got that, and who's at risk for it. And women, it was in younger women. If you look at this on the CDC's website, or CDC's website, if you look at every adverse reaction that people report, they self-report to this website or to this site. Um, the people were women, and they were younger, less than 40, 50 years of age. And I wonder how many of those women, because women that take birth control pills are at a higher risk for clotting. So I wonder, out of those 38 women, how many of the women were on birth control, which put them at a higher risk for clotting. So that's another adverse problem that could come up from the vaccine. There's two more. There's two more. One I'll mention is, and it's also with the Johnson and Johnson vaccine, and it's and they've seen it more when they look back at these reactions. They've seen it more. There was only 100 cases of this, only 100 cases of it out, and we're talking out of 12 million dosages of the vaccine, there were only 100 cases of this. And Guillain-Barré syndrome. Yeah. And so it's a, I mean,
My question would be, if let's say that I took one dose of vaccine and it's been 8 months, what are the requirements? Do I have to start over, or do I need any second shot?
yes. So now Biden today announced that the in, people that are 8 months, it's been 8 months since you got your vaccine, fully vaccinated, since you got the first dosage of the vaccine. If it's been 8 months, then you're up for the vaccine number two. Some people are calling it a booster. I call it um, just like the just like we get, the flu vaccine every year. We get a. It's not really a booster. We get vaccinated for the flu.
Right.
So so now here's what the FDA and the NIH and the CDC is saying now. At 8 months, if it's been 8 months since you've been vaccinated, then it's time for you to get vaccinated again. And this is for a person that's fully vaccinated,
To start over.
to start over,
Uh-huh.
you're starting to cycle over again. So it looks like, or it sounds like, at least for now, that every 8 months you'll get another vaccine. But that could all change. I mean, but now what they're saying is that at 8 months that you should go and you will be eligible. They will be probably calling you to come and get your second dose, because what they're what's happening is the whole idea is that the antibodies are wearing off. So you're at a point where they're wearing off, and so they don't want you to be at risk for getting, this Delta variant or any other variant that might come along.
Speaking of a vaccine, there are some areas in this world so far. It's been almost a year or so where some countries don't have first dosage. It seems obviously that the richer countries are hoarding all the vaccine. As a doctor, as a human being, what is your reaction of that?
Well, with this situation that we're faced with right now, I mean, we are, um, we're, I mean, the United States and other countries that can afford these vaccines, they're they're getting the vaccines. Um, and like you said, there's a lot of poor countries out, and there's a lot of poor countries with a lot of poor people that aren't going to be vaccinated. And here we are going on round two of getting vaccinated against this virus. My thought about that is that um, it's almost like if you have people out there that have not gotten the vaccine and the virus gets, they they contract the virus in Timbuktu. There is a Timbuktu, and if somebody in Timbuktu contracts the virus and the virus goes in and changes to a variant that's more deadly than the Delta, it's going to make its way to the United States. It will make its way to the United States. Remember, it only took 6 months for Delta to get from the Delta
India.
variant to get from India to 80 countries and to be the dominant virus in the United States. So it's a sad situation because even though even though we have these vaccines, and even though because we're a richer country and we can afford to get vaccinated, I mean, if everybody doesn't get vaccinated, if you have all these people out there, countries that have people that aren't vaccinated, that don't have a vaccine, and they're, it's open fire for the virus to go in and change, and then make its way back to the United States. It's a real vicious cycle. I, it would be great if the whole, well, I tell you what, what's going to happen is it's my opinion that we're either going to have to, the world is going to have to work together. We're all going to have to work together. We're going to have to, the United States and all these other countries that can afford the vaccines, and Pfizer, who's making uh, trillions of dollars, trillions of millions of dollars off of the vaccine. We're all going to have to put our hands up on the table and help each other out, because this thing is not going to stop. I mean, we've had variants come along since for the last 5 months.
Yeah.
There's been variants, and here we are with Delta variant. What makes us think that there's not going to be another variant? Because we're not, you know.
Well, that is be waiting to be seen. Hopefully, for our viewers who are in Columbus, if you want to see Dr. White, you can find him at Gateway Health and Wellness Center, and the address of that is actually north of Columbus, 30, 3433 Agler Road, Suite 1100, Columbus, Ohio 43219. If you want to make appointment, the phone number you can reach out is 614-453-1065. Dr. Mark White, we definitely do appreciate your time. Until next time, we thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. That's always a pleasure.